Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Doug Cunnington here from Niche Site Project. This is the webinar on scaling content. I see we got a bunch of people on. Balil, Manoj, Sandeep, I'll just say Fak. I'm not sure how to pronounce your full name. Nahid, Arifin, welcome. Welcome, and it'll be awesome. Just give me a shout if you can actually hear me. Let me know that you can hear me. We are beginning it right now. We're rolling, and Augustus is on. Matt, what's up? Jeff, Mirage, Tom. We have a big crowd today, which is cool. And this is about scaling content. We will get started in a second. I'll let people filter in, and Paul's on, John, Tom, and I'm going to make sure I have my webinar open. I have a slide presentation. I haven't done this presentation before at all, and I'm actually, I'm pumped because we're going to have a lot of people on. So I just rebooted my machine. People could hear me. I have lighting set up. Don't worry about that glare. It is totally okay. So as people are filtering in, I'll just mention that I'm standing today. So I have a situation where I have the laptop up so I can stand up to do the presentation, which is cool. You can see some plants behind me and a quilt that my mom made. So that's nice. And I'm waiting for this webinar to open up as we're waiting around. Cool. This is great. Just curious, of the people that are on, how many have been on one of my webinars in the past? Just curious, just let me know. I have Purarush Thumb. Welcome. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, which I'm almost certain that I did. Cool, so you're on the first time. Matt's seen some YouTube replays. Raj, first time. Augustus, first time. Cool, welcome. I'm really glad you made the time to attend. We're going to get rolling in a second. It does look like my webinar is having trouble opening, which is less cool. So let me try to do that. There's a little intro stuff that I go through anyway, just in general. So that'll be good. I can sort of start going with that before. Okay, it's opened up. Thank God. I can improvise some, but without the presentation. I mean, I do need the presentation in here. Okay, cool. So it looks like it sort of stabilized a little bit, and I always do the sound check. I'll mention it several times as we're getting started. I know people are just actually filtering in right now. So I'm Doug Cunnington. I'm the founder of Niche Site Project, and I'll go into a little bit more detail later, but I generally write about internet marketing and Amazon affiliate sites primarily. Now, I'm a project manager, like a PMP, and I used to have a corporate job and all that stuff, but I got laid off about 2 years ago and really went hard on this internet marketing stuff, and I've been working for myself since then. It was tough. A lot of this stuff is a lot of work, and part of what I'm going to talk about today is how you can get other people to help you out, and I'll hopefully show you the right way to do it. And the project management, by the way, is really baked into everything we're going to talk about today. So I'm not going to bore you with like technical, or not technical, but like corporate jargon of project management and stuff like that. But it is underlying all the stuff I'm going to describe. It'll be pretty apparent when we get into it, and I'll reference it again and again. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my presentation in 1 second here as it is loading. There's a lot of pictures. I guess that's why it's taking a while to load up. So, okay, we're going to get going here. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and it takes a second for it to refresh, but you should see it. Camille, what's up? How's it going? And Simon and Musin, welcome everybody. If it's your first time on, really appreciate you taking the time. And let's get into it here. Let's get into it. So again, this is scaling content, how to hire writers for niche and authority sites and without stress. So I've done the sound check a couple times. People can hear me, that's awesome, but you never want to forget. As I mentioned, Doug Cunnington, I write a niche site project. I also have a YouTube channel, which I'm starting to publish more and more stuff. If you haven't seen the YouTube channel, you should probably check it out. There's tons of, live streams like this, webinars, and just free training, all free there. So that is my dad and I over at Yellowstone National Park, which is not too far from where I live in Bozeman, Montana. That's my dog. He's passed away since we've taken that picture. Sadly, he was an old dog. He was like 15, but it's a cool picture. We just drove down there for the day. And why should you listen to me? I've been quoted or featured in several places, many places you probably recognize just being listed there. And sort of more recently, Social Triggers by Derek Halpern, I had a small feature there as well. And really cool, I'll just mention YouTube stuff again. I mean, you obviously like video if you're watching this now, but just had a new interview posted in the last day or two by Lion Zeal. So that's Daryl Rosser. Check that out as well. I may post a link in here later, but it's pretty cool. Daryl's a good guy, and I'm glad we had a chance to catch up. Simon, thanks about the long tail video, and Larry from New York. Awesome. Okay, so this is sort of my niche site timeline. This is my online journey, and you'll notice that there's some ups and downs. And I think all good internet marketers have the story of I was making $500 a day, totally passively. I was drinking Mai Tais on the beach, and I got penalized, and my revenue went to zero. So I have those stories too. It's a terrible feeling to have that happen. And at this point, I've shifted because I don't have the stomach to deal with that. So I primarily work with, outreach, white hat links. And most recently, we're sort of on a high period here. So I'm scared for the fall. But in June, I sold a site with a partner of mine for $235,000, and it was awesome. So we used Empire Flippers, and there's a whole case study, like a 12-part case study covering that. If you haven't read it, I think it's super interesting. Other people seem to like it too. It's called Project Go White Hat, but I sort of chronicle the whole process, and you can read it like all 12 parts basically in one sitting. So had some ups and downs, and basically I've learned a lot along the way. And of course, you learn a lot when you make mistakes. You figure out what not to do. So I'm going to share some of that with you today. As a reminder, the Q&A is at the end. You can ask some questions, but I'm going to try to not watch the chat too much because it'll totally distract me and I'll forget what I'm saying. I've done it before, so I just want to avoid that. It's super helpful if you mark your question as a question. It's sort of highlighted in my chat view, probably yours as well. And it's just a little easier to go look for it. I'm going to try and hold it tight to like 1 hour. I haven't done this presentation before, so I'm unsure how long it'll take, but I have been drinking a lot of coffee so far today. That'll help me talk faster. This is my Hoth mug. Good people down at the Hoth. Okay. And I think that covers the housekeeping stuff. If you have questions, hold them till the end. If you do type them in, I'll be able to find them, but it's just easier if you hang on. Quick reminder, just an admin housekeeping thing. If this freezes up for any reason, do let me know in the chat. If you stop hearing audio or the video freezes, just let me know in the chat. But a lot of times, if you just refresh your view, it'll be totally fine. So just take a look at refreshing, but also let me know in the chat just in case something happened on my end. Okay, this, of course, is how to scale content for niche and authority sites. just a quick note. It really covers like any type of affiliate site in general. That's sort of the focus. Niche and authority sites, big sites, small sites, like people have different terminology, but really it's all the same. My primary example here is Amazon affiliate sites. It's what I focus on. It's what I specialize in. My mastermind groups are around Amazon affiliate sites, and that's what I work on. In scaling content, I mean, it actually doesn't even have to be an affiliate site. You could use these same ideas for anything where you're scaling and building a team. So you will learn these 4 things. So when you should scale, the content team structure, basically it's my org chart. And we're going to go through step-by-step phases on how to do this. The checklist for the content manager in the thing that saved me 24,360 minutes in 2016. And is continuing to save me just a ton of time this year as well. So the goal, what are we trying to do here? So for me, actually, if we rewind just a little bit, like I was laid off 2 years ago. I mentioned it just in passing, but I was laid off like 2 years ago for my project management job. It was pretty stable. I was there for, almost a decade, and I was doing pretty well, but I got laid off, and I had a decision to make, like, am I going to go big on this internet marketing stuff or something else? Of course, I was going to, take the opportunity to go hard on the internet marketing. And basically, I needed to increase the revenue on a couple sites that were, going okay. And we're just going to look at one, but I really focused on one site. And at that point, I was already starting to experiment with the keyword golden ratio. If you're not familiar with the keyword golden ratio, by the way, there's a whole other video on it. It's beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today. But it helps you find keywords that you could rank for without links. And you'll remember probably if you're attending this, I mentioned I didn't do any link building to these posts that I'm going to talk about in a second. I didn't do any link building to them. It was just, the site had a few links working for it already, and I published a bunch of new content, and it was keyword golden ratio, and it's very low competition. It's a data-driven way to find long-tail keywords, and it's awesome. So look it up if you're unfamiliar with it. I needed to ramp up this revenue because I lost my job, so had to do something. And as we look at what I actually accomplished, we're going to take a look at the facts here so you have a reference point of what's going on. And I hope that I'm still sharing my screen. Can people see my screen right now, by the way? Can anyone see my screen? It looks like on my side, maybe it's not working. You can. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Camille. All right. Awesome. Some people cannot. Some people can. Aaron can't see it. Oh, it's just blank. Okay. So it's a mixed bag. Some people can't see it. Some people can. I'm going to try and refresh this. Cool. So basically, I was trying to ramp up the revenue, right? So increase revenue, increase profits, publish content that I didn't have to build links to, and glad this is back working again. So the facts are this. The site in question made about $100 in January of 2016, and then I ramped it up to almost $15,000, so $14,819 by December. Of course, the retail season makes the revenue spike, but hey, it counts. That's money too. So I mean, I took advantage of the fact that a lot of people are buying stuff. That's just the way it works. And here's the screenshot for the year. For that particular site, you could see it ramped up from, almost, it looks like nothing here, but it grew very slowly. And, in this period right here, May and June of 2016, I mean, that's $1,000 or so, but it looks like almost nothing. So it ramped up, and it ramped up fast. And just a quick note, I started adding the content in June through October. So this was a 5-month process where I published 200 articles, and I invested about $4,000, but it was over 5 months. So, I mean, you could imagine by the time I got, I was publishing some content here in June, and as I was making more revenue, I simply reinvested. So $4,000 is a lot, of course, but it is something that I spaced out over time. So, okay. As we are moving on here, I'm going to mention some other facts just so everyone has a baseline before we even get to the part where I talk about scaling the team. And people are saying you are able to see the screen, or it's a blank screen. It's unclear to me, but I'm going to keep rolling with it. So basically, I hire all my writers from Upwork. That's number one. Number two, I pay about $14 or $15 for 1,000 words on average. And by the way, is it possible to get content for cheaper? Yes, you could get content for cheaper. That is not my goal. We really have to look at the ROI on the work that you're doing and what you're trying to do. And of course, I'm trying to get a good ROI. I don't want to like try and hire people for less than they're worth. I want to hire people and pay them a fair wage, and work with professionals. So yeah, so $14 or $15 is what I aim for. And if they're good, I'll even pay them more. If they work with me for a little while, I'll give them a raise. We don't talk about it like up front. I'll just randomly give them a raise. People like that. They're like, hey, I want to keep working for this guy because he may give me more random raises in the future. So little stuff like that. And thanks, folks, for letting me know that you can see Raj and Matt. Appreciate it. So the other role that I'll mention, aside from the writers, is a content manager and an editor. I pay between $10 and $20 an hour. It varied. In general, last year I paid about $10 an hour, but at this point, I found someone that I like, continue to give her raises, and it's about 20 bucks an hour. And I'll talk about more of the details of the content manager and what they do. And I'll mention the content manager and editor. I'll just say content manager from here on out. They spend about 45 to 60 minutes to edit one post. So that saved me a lot of time. They actually do it like faster than me, like twice as fast as me. And you can imagine that if I'm publishing 200 posts, that's like 200 hours of work, right? And if it takes me twice as long, it's 400 hours of work. That's a long time. I obviously needed to get help to work on this stuff. So we're going to get into when to scale. Now, I was at a point where, I had the keyword golden ratio concept, and I knew that it worked well. So I had that. I had revenue to invest, and it was time for me to go big and take some massive action to try and get massive results. So I will note mostly when not to scale. So in general, you should scale like later than you think. A lot of times we hear, our mentors from afar, people we follow, role models, stuff like that. We hear them talk about scaling. We hear them talk about, what they're working on right now. Like you hear me talk about publishing 200 pieces of content. I was already like 3 years into internet marketing, and I had, revenue to invest, and I had like an understanding of exactly what I was doing. If you're just starting out, you probably, shouldn't try and scale when you're on like day 60 and I'm on day, 900. Like keep that in mind. It doesn't mean you can't scale on a smaller scale. If you can't grow on a smaller scale, that's totally fine. However, if I'm talking about what I'm working on right now and I'm 4 years in you're 1 year in, you should probably scale it back to an appropriate level to what you're at. So there's so many factors involved, but in general, you should probably scale a little bit later than you think. So number one, your site should have stable traffic and revenue. So if you are, struggling to get people on your site, if you're struggling to, convert those visitors into buyers on Amazon or however you're monetizing, then you should definitely pause. You need to make sure you have people on your site. And if you don't have any traffic, if you don't have the revenue that you're looking for that meets your goals, then you probably need to focus on some of the basic things like link building and keyword research and making sure that you have a good foundation to scale. So we'll leave it at that. I can go on and on, but I'll leave it at that. And this one hopefully is obvious, but if you don't have the budget to invest in the content, then you should wait till you can afford it. So, you saw in the earnings graph that I showed just a minute ago, basically the site was making $100 a month for several months. So I rolled that into the first investment of content, which was only, a few $100s. When you see how we grow the team, it'll be clear that you really can take this at a step-by-step fashion so that you're not overwhelmed with too many writers, a lot of people asking you questions. That is actually much more difficult to deal with. So wait until you have a budget. There's always going to be opportunity out there. There's no rush. You don't have to rush this stuff. And if you start to try and rush things, you're probably going to make decisions that are, short-term, for short-term goals versus your long-term goal where you really want to be. And that's probably for most of us to just work for ourselves, be able to, control our time when we want to work, when we want to, go on vacation, go to the gym, and so on. That's really where we want to be. So if you think about that and think about how much time that we have to do this stuff, you don't have to be in a rush. So if you don't have the budget, wait till you have the budget. Okay, so we're going to get into the fun stuff now. By the way, just a quick gauge. I should have asked this earlier, but how many people have a site right now making about $100 a month or something like that, where you think, hey, maybe it's time for me to scale? Just let me know in the chat. Just say, hey, I got a site. It's doing about X hundred, X thousand per month. As I drink more coffee, keeps me fueled. Cool. So Camille has a site doing 22K a month. Awesome. Jeff, around 10K, and you're trying to scale. Parishatham says one site, but the revenue's from AdSense. Aaron has a site. Mark has a site, 400. Raj has a site. Parishatham, sorry, I'm pronouncing your name wrong, 700 a month. And Raul, you're getting clicks, but not profit yet. And Martin, you're getting $1 a month. That's all right. We all start at $1 a month. Every site starts at 0. Simon, 600. Nick, you're doing 200. Awesome. This is fantastic. We have a very high cumulative revenue per month. Camille has several going. Augustus made 135 in May. That's good. That's good. You're trying to build another site. And MD 200, Musin 200, and Kenneth is about $30 a month. Awesome. I'll come back over there. This is a great amount of, this is a good group. There's so many more people for every person in the chat, every person listening to me. There's probably 20 people that haven't started their site yet. And if you haven't started your site yet, that's okay. But taking action, making those, first sites, making those first mistakes really, and figuring out what to do, so critical. So congratulations everyone who's, started a site, you're pulling revenue in, you proved it to yourself and your family and friends, this stuff works. Matt doing 10 to 15 a month. And yeah, so great job, everybody. So here's the thing. Got to grow slowly. We all want to, hire a team, put a content team together and just hit go, give them a list of keywords. maybe you tell someone how to look up the keywords for you, and then you don't have to do anything. It's always so much harder than that. And I'm telling you, I think anyone who's making money right now, like, it's difficult. Like, all this stuff is difficult. Everything takes longer than you think it's going to. Stuff goes wrong, and then you hear stories, even from people like me. You hear stories, and you're like, oh, Doug sold a site for $235K, blah, blah, blah. Well, there was a lot of backstory before that. Like, it wasn't my first site. So there's a lot of stuff that happens along the way that we don't hear about. So it wasn't like an overnight thing. But the point is, grow slowly. Everything takes a little longer than we think. Here's the thing to remember. Each person that you hire creates another communication channel. And that means you end up with like a network of people, even if they don't talk directly to each other. Like, you'll see in my org chart I'm going to show in a second. Like, even if they don't talk directly to each other, it's still people that can talk to you. And the last thing you want is like 10 writers asking you the same question, because that's just a nightmare. So every time you like add another person to your team, it ends up making it more complicated. And just to backtrack about my corporate job, it was a little, soul-sucking and terrible. But in other ways, I mean, I learned some skills that it's pretty hard to learn in, from what I could tell, the internet marketing space, especially as like a solo entrepreneur myself. I probably hired and interviewed like dozens of people. So I interviewed probably over, 100 or so. Looked through resumes and built the team. I onboarded the team. I worked on the document that they received when they started, so that they knew what to look for, the steps to get their laptop, to do all these details. And I'm going a little deep here, but at one point I was managing between 10 and 15 like project managers who were all working on like between 3 and 10 projects themselves. And everyone was just working on a little bit of a different thing, and they reported to me. So I built teams, and I understand the complexity that arises when you just add one more person. So in general, this is a good stuff here. So in general, this is the org chart. You could tell where I'm at because my face is on that circle. So I'm calling it the project manager. It could be the founder, right? So I'm the founder of what I'm working on, or just overall the manager. And as I mentioned, everyone has a direct line to me. They don't communicate with each other. The content manager doesn't communicate with the writers. Everything filters through me. Could I remove that portion? Yes. However, it does give me a sanity check for the writers. So I actually peruse the content before I send it over to the content manager. And it gives me more control on hiring individuals and having a really good handle on what each person's working on. I could get rid of it, but I really don't want to. It doesn't take me that much time right now. So as we go through and look at this, you'll notice that this is actually modular, and I'll illustrate it specifically in one of the later phases. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to scale. So this is the part you should really pay attention to. So if people are doing other stuff, you should pay attention right now. This is how you grow it slowly. And it could take you about 5 weeks or so, but you will exponentially, I'll try that again, exponentially grow the amount of content that you can publish. And once you understand the concepts here, you'll be able to create other pods or modules of just content teams that sort of stand alone, and you could throttle the writing. You can add more content managers, whatever you want to do, however it works best for you. So everyone paying attention now, and we'll get into phase 1. So phase 1 looks like this, and basically this obviously is harkening back to the point of making sure that you are growing slowly. So you just hire one writer, and you'll notice this this gray box here where I am also the content manager. So if you don't have like a content management process, this is the point in time where you hire one writer, you get them working on whatever it is that they need to be writing. And then what you'll want to do is do the content management and editing. So for me, we'll go into the specific details. For me, I published the content, drafted it up in WordPress, did some stuff, which I'll tell you about later, and then hit publish. I documented all that stuff so that I could later give it to someone else to work on. We often think, oh, I can't hand off that portion of it because like I'm the only one that can do that work. Newsflash, like you're not the only one that can do the work. We're all very special and unique, but the stuff that we're doing here is actually not that complicated. So I have like a 4 or 5 page job aid, pretty straightforward on exactly what the content manager needs to do for my particular site. And you could develop your own. So you have to figure out what you're doing, what you want done for your site to publish it. Maybe you grab images, maybe you get YouTube videos, whatever, but you have to figure it out and then list it. You probably need to do it a couple times because you're going to miss a few things here and there. We often internalize like the process that we're going through. And when you write it out and go step by step, then you'll have like a baseline on what to do. Okay, so that's phase 1. You hire a writer, you work with the content, and you figure out what you have to do as a content manager. You document it all because you're going to need it very soon. This is phase 2, where you hire another writer, and you go ahead and you hire a content manager. And this, like I said, phase 2, hopefully you've had like a week or so of like working through the content. I can't tell you how much content you need to have written. I can't tell you how many writers you should work with off the bat in this phase 2. You could hire like 2 total or even 3 total. And what I like to do personally is to actually like get one of my writers that has been working for me, and they kind of understand the tone. They understand what I'm trying to do, and they are good to work with, good communication, stuff like that. And try and promote one of the writers to a content manager. You don't have to do that. You can try and hire a content manager off the bat, but a lot of times, if you look for a pure content manager, what you'll find is it's a little bit more expensive. They have other skills that are a little bit more sought after, like working in WordPress, for example. And if you could hire a writer and train them on WordPress, which is actually pretty easy, you could just tell them to look up a couple videos or send them a couple videos on YouTube. Then you could hire a writer who understands the tone that you're going for. They've done the writing themselves. And people get bored writing, by the way. So if you give them a little promotion, they could be into it. So now they're working on an hourly rate and that sort of thing. So when you hire the content manager, you should give them the job aid that you created as you were doing the content management yourself. And this is key. Make sure that you tell the content manager to ask you questions if there's something that's unclear. This is the part where you are going to have to spend a little more time. There's going to be questions, there's going to be mistakes in your job aid, something is not going to be clear, you'll need to add more details. And this is super important to get the content manager to ask you questions, because then you can go and improve that document. You improve the job aid, the parts that are unclear. We have like a information, or we have sort of like an expert fallacy where like if we read the job aid, we know how to do it. We created it. So it's hard for you to actually see the gaps, see the mistakes. But someone who doesn't know that stuff will tell you where it's unclear. And it is so important to continually improve that document. So I give the content manager, access to edit the document or leave comments is really what I want. I don't actually want them to edit it. I want them to just like leave comments and say, hey, I don't understand this part. It's unclear what you mean about H2 and H3 subheadings. I don't understand what that means or when to do it. And then you can add more details around it. So just to emphasize, it's a learning process for you as well. And you need to take the feedback from your team and make your process better. So I hammered it home really hard. You need to have a team to ask questions, and you could take that feedback and make your process better. Phase 3. So this is, roughly another 1 to 2 weeks, depending on how fast you're going. And you'll notice it's simple. We're just adding a couple more writers here. That's it. The content manager has some specific amount of time that they can, work per week. And you have some writers that have a specific amount that can write per week. So you kind of want to match up like the amount of work that they can do. You don't have to, but it's kind of nice if they are working at a reasonably similar, like progress flow, I guess is the right phrase. I'm not sure if it is, but you want the content manager to be able to process everything from the writers. Now, what I actually like to do is hire a few more writers than I need up front, because it's a little bit more of a commodity. There's more writers and less training for the writers. So if I have a content manager, I don't want them to sit idle. I want them to have plenty of work to do. So I'll actually build up a queue. I usually do this in like Google Drive. And I'll have a folder with like all the documents that they need to process, all the articles that they need to process and draft in WordPress. Of course, I didn't mention it before, but like the content manager has like an editor role in WordPress, so they can draft and publish stuff and that sort of thing. I just have them draft it so I could look over everything. And I'll get into what the content manager does in a few minutes. But at this point, you do sort of want to make sure that the content manager has stuff to work on. If you've agreed to say, hey, around 5 to 10 hours a week or 20 hours or whatever, that you're giving them enough work, expectations are set, and you need to, adhere to those. And if things change, something changes, your budget changes, whatever, you just let them know. Be upfront. Don't try and string someone along or be dishonest. Just say, hey, I thought I was going to have 10 hours a week for you. It looks like I only have 5. I'm not going to add any more like hours in the future, or I'm looking to ramp it up to 20 in the future. But communication is key, and it goes, both sides of the coin here. So you can, keep it at this point right here. You don't have to grow anymore if you don't want to. It depends on how much work the team can do. And, you may find, for example, let's say these 4 writers are working full-time. Let's say they're working 40 hours a week for you, and they're producing so much content. They're producing like 20 articles each, and that's just a ton of content. You may need to hire like 2 or 3 content managers to process that. So you have to do the math on both sides and make sure that they're working through the content at the pace that you need for your budget and for your goals. As we go to phase 4, this is sort of the opposite. And this is more similar to what I actually have. One content manager and several writers who just do a little bit each week. So again, I had a bit of a queue built up for the content manager, so they have plenty of work to do. And from here, you can hire more writers or hire more content managers or do whatever you want to do. Of course, you could sit in the steady state of like phase 3 if you wanted to. That's actually pretty good. If you have a smaller budget, maybe you just stick at phase 2. When I was publishing like all those articles in 2016, it looked more like phase 5. Lots of writers, a couple content managers working in parallel. There was, a few times, there were a few times where, writers disappeared. So you lose 2. They stop answering their messages. They don't turn anything in. You end those jobs and just move on. There's turnover with this stuff. I mean, we have the luxury of having, freelancers that we could, get to start writing for us like that day. I mean, you could put an ad out today. hire 3 or 4 writers, keep the best one, and go from there. And do that a few times until you have a team of writers for yourself. We have the luxury of spawning a team up fast, but it also means those freelancers can leave. And you have to look at your priorities. I mean, if you want to manage this sort of stuff, then there's going to be like HR issues. There's going to be people disappearing. You're going to have to spend time on Upwork communicating with these folks and just making sure they have what they need. They're going to have questions and so on and so forth. Same thing for the content managers. I mean, from my perspective, I'll pay a little bit more for a content manager. And as I paid more, they got better. I mean, I'll just tell you, the person that I pay a higher rate, they already knew WordPress. They already did content management. She started for me as a writer. And at this point, I mean, she's working through the content way faster than other people. So, it's worth it. Not everyone's going to be like that. You may actually hire someone, pay them more, and then they're not going to come through like I mentioned. But you have to take the chance. You have to test it out. And in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty inexpensive to trial someone for like a week or so and then figure out if you like working with them. You may not like working with them, and then you can find someone else. But phase 5, this is totally modular. You can have these content managers working in parallel. You can have them working on different sites if you have content needs across a portfolio of sites. You can have the writers split up. So like these 4 writers write for this content manager and these 4 write for this content manager. I didn't specify as much like who was writing for what. I just had a queue of content being written, a list of articles being written by the writers, and then I would move that content over to the folders that each of the content managers had access to. They were working on multiple sites. By the way, once I finished the 200 posts for my site, I moved that team over to the Project Go White Hat site. So like once they were trained, the content of what they were writing was like irrelevant. They could do it for any site over and over again. So that is phase 5. And this is saving over 24,000 minutes in 2016. So this gets into the content management. So just as a quick note, does anyone have a content manager or an editor on their staff right now? Well, just let me know in chat. Just interested, especially, we have a lot of people that are achieving like pretty impressive revenue so far, and just curious, like who has a content manager and editor working for you? Give me a chance to drink some more coffee here. Raj says no. Nick says no, it's too early. Good. You guys listen to what I said about scaling too soon. Cool. So not yet. Augustus does it himself. Cool. And I'll start getting into it. Jeff says, right now it's just you, but you're thinking about promoting your first writer. Thomas has a Hoth mug too. Aaron says, you're a content manager for a client with several sites. You don't have your sites any longer, or you don't have time for your own sites. And okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. So basically, I hired a content manager, and it was something, actually, I was talking to my mastermind group today. It's just a couple of us chatting every couple weeks, and we're the bottleneck. Like each of us are the bottleneck, and whatever it is we're trying to do, when we look at, our team, some people have like permanent staff. Other people like myself just have like freelance teams that I kick up whenever I need them. But in each case, like it is all about like finding the bottleneck in the system. Usually it's ourselves, and then getting out of the way and figuring out like it's just a problem to solve, right? It's just a problem to solve. And if you're thinking about scaling, like a lot of people here on the call, you have revenue that you can reinvest. Like you have some budget. So as soon as I looked at it, I was like, okay, if someone came to me with this problem of not being able to publish enough content, then what would I tell them? Like, okay, well, what work is it that's holding me up? And then like challenging each one of the things that I thought I had to do, which turns out to be basically nothing. Is there anything like I'm the best at that I have to do? And the answer is no. And then I looked at what actually needed to be done, and it's like pretty simple, right? There's no like crazy things that need to be done. I mean, I like to think that my like on page SEO prowess is like really strong, but it's not that special. Like I know the right things to look for, but I don't have to do it. It's something you can train. So once I took a step back, I was like, oh, it takes me like between 1 to 2 hours to do the editing and content managing on one post. Because I would take longer, right? I would like try and rewrite too much of it. I was slow and I just wasn't doing it very fast. Enter the content manager. So this is where I got all this massive like return. And basically, here's what the content manager does. So you should probably write this down. There's actually a blog post that covers a lot of this same material, which I'll paste it in the chat here. This is exactly what the content manager does. I'm not going to read everything here, but I'll paste it in the chat so you can go reference it later. Basically, they do the editing. They move the content over into WordPress. They add affiliate links. They add some images, and they add a relevant video from YouTube. That's it. It's simple, right? So when I looked at what I was actually doing for this content management thing that was taking me like a couple hours for each post, I was like, I don't need to do this. This is dumb. I'm wasting so much time. So as soon as I got out of there, I realized that I could publish like 10 times as much or more as I was doing on my own. And there's absolutely like no reason for me to even be like drafting these posts at all. So at this point, it takes me like about 2 minutes per post. I go in, take a look at it, make sure it's formatted okay, peruse the affiliate links that were added to make sure, you know, it's my tracking code in there, and that's it. And then I hit publish, and then I, you know, move on with my day. So instead of doing, let's say, for example, I was publishing like 10 articles per week. Instead of spending on average 15 hours on publishing those 10 articles, I was now spending like just a few minutes. I was spending like under 30 minutes doing that stuff, and just hop in, you know, hit publish, take a quick look at them, and then I'm done. That's it. So I saved a ton of time, and I'm going to go ahead and paste the link where you'll find a lot of this in a little bit more detail in some areas, but I'll just put it in there. That's my site, of course. Can I make this a sticky? No. Okay. Anyway, so that's what the content manager does, and it saved me a huge amount of time because I was slow, and it was taking me a long time just because I was spending more time reading it. And if someone's doing a job, they have a specific set of things they're doing, they're like working through it fast. They're not like dilly-dallying and like taking a long time like I was. So just everything got better as soon as I hired the content manager. Okay. Now it's time for Q&A. So what do we have here? I see a couple questions came in, so I'm going to hop back over to the screen. There we go. And Musin says 200 pieces of content from the same product category. No, it was just whatever fit in the niche. You know, any kind of product that fit in the niche, that's the kind of stuff I would publish. It was probably like 80% affiliate content. I would scale it down to about 50-50 at this point, and that's, you know, just a little bit more informational type content because I have a lot of affiliate content at this point. Let's see, Raj says, how many words per post? 800 to 1,000 words per post. Raj also says, how many posts per day did I publish? Most of the time 0, but up to 20 to 25. Usually I would just like publish all the articles as soon as I possibly could. I don't think there's any value in trickling it out. Publish it whenever you get it. I haven't seen any ill effects from it in my, in my personal experience. I haven't seen any issues with it. Martin says, how do I promote? Facebook ads plus keywords or something else? No, just SEO. So do white hat outreach for organic rankings in Google. I run no ads. Zioani says, is it possible to embed YouTube to your post? Yes. You just have to get the embed code from the YouTube video and embed it in your post. That's it. Ray says, outreach for guest posts or PBNs? For guest posts. Camille says, how can you ensure that the content meets the Amazon guidelines? So one, there's a couple key things that you shouldn't do, like mention the price, mention like the number of reviews or the rating. So just tell the writer not to do that. And then tell the content manager to keep an eye out for it. And then that's all you have to do. That is all you have to do. Okay, Jeff says, how do I find quality content for $14 to $15 per 1,000 words? Right now, you find that if you pay anyone less than $75 for 1,000 word article, you don't get high quality work. So I'm not sure. I put a posting up and I usually try and get new writers, and I have like a good like client rating just in general. So I think people like to work with me because I'm clear about like the expectations. To talk about some other comments that I saw, like I set expectations and I have very clear instructions, and my job postings are very good. By the way, if you're here, I think you probably got, you're on the email list. You probably got the first email for Niche Site Project. If you go to the free downloads page, which don't share that link, please. It's only for subscribers. But Jeff, if you go to the free downloads page, there's stuff on like hiring a content team. My templates are in there. There's nothing like magic. It's just hiring people that are willing to work for that specific rate. And you can't always, I mean, people will want to raise the rates over time. So you just have to realize also that maybe they only work with you for 4 to 8 weeks or something. And that's why you have to have really good instructions. So hiring another person, well, it's not a big deal. I will say I've never paid like $75 for that like length of content. And I would imagine if you're paying $75, it's like they're like PhDs in whatever the subject is. That's a pretty high rate. Just overall. So Jeff, I would say check out the job postings that I use and see if you could demo those and see how it goes. Matt says, so what's the ratio for info versus commercial in the 200 that I posted? It was like 80% commercial. So affiliate content about 80%, so 160 out of the 200. Augusta says, how do I handle internal linking? I link from each of the articles 2 to 5 times to other articles. Each of the articles also has 2 to 5 incoming links, internal links from the site. Is it a pain in the ass to do? Yes, it sure is. Thomas says, okay, so I already got the info versus commercial, but I would recommend do like 50-50 info versus commercial. Jeff says, do I outsource my outreach? Yeah, generally, again, I'll spawn up a team and then have them work on it. Matt says, were the 200 articles exclusively for KGR? Yes, yes, they were. I think I'm screaming, so I'm just going to get closer to the mic here. Or I'm going to lose my voice. By the way, tomorrow I'm doing just like a live stream. It's just a Q&A, and I'm going to post a link. I'm just going to take a quick pause. If you like me answering questions, you should subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit like the notification, like the little bell, so that you'll get notified whenever I do a live stream. And I literally, like I'm doing them on Fridays, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, which is what time this thing started today. And I just straight up answer questions. So you could just like keep asking questions and I'll keep answering them within reason until I have to go to the gym and then, take a break. But I'm going to put a link in here real quick because I do want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really appreciate it. And I'll put it in the sticky message right here. Boom. So if you head over there, click subscribe, and then click the little bell so you get the notification. You can ask me questions on Fridays at 10 a.m. Okay. Paul asks, do you or your writers actually use the products before reviewing them? No. If not, how are you adding value to the reader? By consolidating information, there's value in like curating the information from different sources. So I was looking for, what was I looking for the other week? I was checking on Amazon for something. I can't remember. Like it was, we'll just say like it was like a laser printer or something like that. So it was like looking for laser printers, and I was like, laser printer, and there's like 400 options. There are multiple like similar models from the same company. Some are old, some are new. And I don't want to look through like 400 different choices. I just want a curated list of like 4. What are the best like laser printers that I can use? So at that point, there's tons of value in consolidating information and providing someone a curated list. Paul, some people would argue that point, but I'm comfortable with publishing reviews on stuff that I haven't, held or used or whatever. Let's see. Martin says, got only $70. Should I go for phase 1 or 0 by doing everything yourself, even though you won't be making money? So Martin, is that like $70 for the whole project, or like $70 like right now today? In general, I'm just going to assume that is like for the next 6 weeks. So the answer is, yeah, do everything yourself. It's probably good for you to write some content, because if you're going to hire people to do certain things, especially at this stage, right? Like you should have a pretty good idea on what needs to be done, because they're going to have questions and you'll need to be able to answer them. Camille says, what kind of content do I normally do? Top 5 products or a single product review? Blend of the two. Aaron says, is there a link for the free download page with the content info and templates? Aaron, go to the first email that you received from me for the, what am I trying to say? The first email that you got from Niche Site Project on the newsletter, and there's a link in there. So you can go check that out. Aaron, if you can't find that email for some reason, let me know. Just, shoot me an email and I'll work it out with you. So next, Camille says, what's the best structure for content? Description, pros, cons. There's no like best structure. If you go to nichesiteproject.com/ actually just go to Niche Site Project and find the Start Here page. At the very bottom, there's like a format for the perfect Amazon review. If someone has the link in the chat, there's like a PDF or like an image, and it shows you like how to structure it. But I mean, really, you can structure it however you want. There's no like best way. What's the best conversion rate you get? I'm usually around like 13%, 12 to 13%. and you're getting around 5% Purish. We'll abbreviate your name as Purish. And you have a bounce rate of 65%. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Martin says, can I explain the keyword golden ratio real quick? Yeah, so you got to look at YouTube, but you just want to know. So basically, it's a data-driven way to find keywords that other people aren't looking for. I sort of like stumbled across the idea through, and I'm going to give credit to the people that were in a small mastermind group with me. Like over the time that I was putting it together, I consolidated ideas and I named it. So Rob Atkinson, Quentin Hamp, Shauna Newman, Lewis Ogden, and I was talking with those folks and put different ideas together and came up with the keyword golden ratio. It's literally this: the keyword golden ratio equals the all-in title results divided by the local monthly search volume, where the local monthly search volume is less than 250. It needs to be less than 250 because if you go to higher numbers, higher search volumes, there's too much competition. So 250 is the threshold where it very reliably works, and you should be able to rank like in the top 30 or 50 as soon as you publish the content and it's indexed in Google. There are probably people that are skeptical, but if you try it, like it literally works. Not 100% of the time, but if you publish like 10 posts, like you're going to see some traction. Martin, watch the video. It's a little bit more in depth. Purish says, I'm giving a rating on the scale of 10 on 3 parameters, blah, 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 blah. Is it a violation of Amazon? Not to my knowledge. That sounds fine. And Nick, thanks for posting that link. Really appreciate it. And Matt says, it's genius, by the way. Yeah, any more compliments, keep them coming. Really want to hear those. The KGR has you ranking in the top 30 and quick, and some on the first page within 10 days with no backlinks. Awesome, Matt. That is really, really cool. Purish says you're planning on 301ing an expired relevant domain with clean anchors for your new website. Should I go with it or not? Sure, give it a try. I haven't done it before, but I know it can work well. If you're 100% sure it's clean, it's probably going to be nice. It'd be much better if it wasn't expired. Raj says, your backlink strategy for that site, ? I think you're asking about it. When did I start building links? Did I outsource this? Did I use social signals? Did I use PBNs? Okay. I did some outreach the previous year. So in like 2015, I did some outreach. So there were a few like guest post links out there. I didn't outsource it. I did it myself. I didn't do social signals. I think if you have like an actual viral post, like if you actually have social interaction on your site, that helps. I don't think you could pay a service to do social signals and it'll make a difference. I've never heard, and by the way, please let me know, I've never heard anyone say, hey, I just paid $200 for this service. They did these social signals and now I'm ranking #1. It's BS. Someone's trying to sell you a service. By the way, probably those are my friends. So no offense, guys and gals. Did I use a PBN? No. Matt says, KGR is the reason you're the disciple. Thank you. Appreciate that. Strong word, but I'll take it. Kenneth, oh yeah, cool. We get the picture. Martin says, won't the KGR ratio get saturated over time if a lot of people find out about it? Everyone got to be below 250. Yeah. So look, 250 is where it works really well. If you want to go for higher than 250, it'll probably work too, to be honest with you. But maybe you won't rank in the top 30 or 50. Maybe you rank in the top 150. That's not really worthwhile, right? If you rank in the top 150, who cares? Like, you're not going to get any traffic. And Matt, thank you. The reason why, hopefully, the KGR ratio won't get saturated It's because it's a pain in the ass to look these things up. You have to do it manually. There's no like tool that'll do it. It's throttled by Google. It's an advanced search. If you try and, if you start doing an all in title search for the next half hour, like your IP will get blocked and you won't be able to do it anymore. Like you have to do this slowly over time. It's manual, and that's why it works. You'll notice through, for a lot of the new people, through a lot of my material on Niche Site Project and on the YouTube channel. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, you should go over there and subscribe, hit the bell, and you can, I totally lost my train of thought, but a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff that I'm working on and I advise people is like, it's a little bit more work, takes a little longer, and each little step that you do, like with outreach, for example, if you take a little bit longer, there's like so many lazy people that don't do the little steps, or like, I'm probably just going to skip that part, that it filters out a lot of people. So the KGR may get saturated because it is catching on a little bit, but then you'll have to, put strategies together. Like you have to do guest posting, manual outreach with the KGR method to get ahead. I mean, like, it is difficult to find them. So, okay. Couple more questions and then we'll call it a day. If you have more questions, you can ask me tomorrow. Same time, same place, except on YouTube. So Raj says, why did your first site get penalized from Google? PBN usage. And what things should we avoid to avoid getting a penalty? PBN usage and any kind of like, anything that is against the terms of service for Google and their webmaster guidelines, like don't do that stuff and you should be okay. It's not 100%. There's always risk involved in everything. Even white hat guest posting, still risk in that, It's way less risky. The sort of footprints that you could leave with a PBN are much bigger, much more permanent. If you're using a PBN and you do a good job, if you're purchasing links from a network and they do a good job, then you'll be in a much better spot. Okay. I think that covers it. Kenneth asked one more question. What is the ideal time gap between two new posts on your website? It doesn't matter. It could be 0 amount of time or weeks. It doesn't matter. You could publish 20 articles in a day or 0 articles. All right. Cool. Raj, and by the way, if people found this on the Facebook group from Niche Hacks, it'd be awesome if you went back and you just said, Doug, the webinar was awesome, really enjoyed it. You have a shiny bald head, but you seem like a good dude. Okay, and then Martin says, why don't you get social ads? Wouldn't your profit be far bigger? Martin, I don't know. I challenge you. If you're a paid ads expert, then maybe. But for me, the math doesn't work out. Like Amazon pays a certain commission, and it's between like 0 and 10%, depending on what category it is. Like the math just doesn't work out to run ads for me. And I don't have a big interest in running ads on Facebook or other social areas. And by the way, I haven't heard anyone that knows how to do that and make it work with Amazon. If you're doing like some other affiliate program or something else, like totally could work. But I don't think it'll work with Amazon because the commissions are so low. Okay. Any last questions? I'll hold it for like another couple minutes or like 20 seconds or so. Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time. I'm probably going to be doing webinars on Thursdays at this time. So don't forget Q&A tomorrow. See you on the YouTube side. All right, Martin. Cool. That's a good question, though. Martin says he's not an expert on paid ads. You're welcome. Thanks for attending. Okay, I'm out of here. See ya.